The stage is set and the pieces are there, but there's one thing Alabama and this new staff have to reel in if they want to win a natty. Stick around. Let's talk about it. This is Way Offsides. 3, 2, let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the case may be. I don't know when you're watching this. It could be with your morning coffee. It could be while you're laying in bed. So I say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Way Offsides, your favorite Alabama talk here on YouTube. Place where you can get it all in one spot, free of charge. All you need to do is hit that like button, hit the notification bell, subscribe while you're at it, and leave a big comment. Leave a big Roll Tide for me down in the comment section. We're going to be talking about, we're going to be a little critical today just because things are exciting around Alabama football. I am excited about Alabama football in 2025. I am looking very much forward to this product that Alabama is going to put on the field. They just let it go last night. They let it fly. Ty Simpson is going to be the guy that starts. Roll Ty. So things just are looking up. Whether we're talking about recruiting, the product on the field, what's going on. The expectations are through the absolute roof as always. But there's some things that I still think, and you, obviously, based off of your comments on social media, on YouTube, still think need to be ironed out for Alabama to get back to the pinnacle, the peak, the apex of college football. One of those things, many of you may not realize, last season Alabama was 123rd in penalties. This has been a trend we've seen with the Tide in the past few years. Messy stuff, messy things on the field. Alabama last year gave up almost 1,000 yards of penalty yardage throughout the season. Absolutely redonkulous. About 70 yards per game, 71 yards per game, somewhere in there. Pretty abysmal stuff, especially when you talk about a standard that Nick Saban's put in place there of professionalism, discipline, all these different things. Now, I feel like this correlates with several things because it was going on before Kalen DeBoer and staff got here. It was going on under Nick Saban. A lot of people don't want to talk about that. They don't want to admit that, but those last couple Saban teams were very, very sloppy, especially on the offensive line. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. But some of this has come with issues in the locker room with NIL players, as you like to call them, NIL merchants, players who look at themselves above the team. It's been a big problem in the locker room in Tuscaloosa. And it raises legitimate concerns on folks, fans wanting to know, how is this going to be addressed? How is it going to be fixed? Well, I think the answer is already out there. I think that we've already been told how it's going to be fixed. I think when you listen to the guys who are on this squad, on this 2025 squad, and they discuss the little things. Yesterday, I can't remember who it was. Might have been Damani Jackson, touchdown Alabama. We just had Justin Smith on our live show last week, but they discussed with Damani Jackson how they are paying attention to all the little details and doing the fundamental stuff right. And it's not just stuff on the field. It's being at practice on time, being in class, being where they're supposed to be, uniformity, all of these things that breed a cohesion and build a machine, as opposed to highlighting individual players on their own. And Alabama's had that problem the past few years. I did a whole video on this. I felt like the whole larger than life thing started with Tua, and that's not Tua's fault. We were just all really, really excited about Tua, but it turned Alabama into a place to where a player could be bigger than the program, and that's just not going to work at Alabama. You have to have guys who are bought into that system. The system's not buying into them. Not saying that's what happened with Tua. Tua did not. There was nothing malicious about it. It's just Tua, the legend of Tua Tagovailoa, became bigger than the University of Alabama. And it's understandable. The dude was amazing, injury prone, but absolutely, probably the best quarterback we've ever had come through here. But in terms of these ridiculous penalties, a lot of this stuff is happening on the offensive line. So we'll move to that area. Alabama's offensive line in the past 4 seasons has been mediocre. The expectation going into every season is super high, but the play has not been good. A lot of folks don't realize how bad the offensive line was when Bryce Young was quarterback. The game where Alabama goes down to Texas, that was an abysmal game for the offensive line. If you want to go back, go watch the last 2 USF games. The offensive lines were terrible. They were not great. I use the word cohesion a lot, but there's been a lot of rotating and a lot of youth on Alabama's offensive line, as well as depth has been impacted by the transfer portal and things like that. And so it's not, I don't want to say it's been patchwork because it hasn't been, but there's been a lot to happen to that unit. Caden Proctor this year is going to be one of the highlighted players on Alabama's offensive line. The kid came to Alabama, started, didn't play well, but got better as the season progressed, and got bullied by fans, transferred out, then transferred back. Had a better year last year, was kind of similar to his first year. He was better overall, but he progressed as the season went on. But now he's going to have another chance on that left side of the line to really step up. As well as you've got a lot of guys this year who were getting a ton of playing time last season. Again, you go back to that USF game last year in Tuscaloosa, the one where Nick Saban's shaking his head. They were trying to figure out that offensive line. They were rotating dudes. They were shifting guys. They were trying to actively figure it out. And once they got the formula together, the line, it wasn't what we expected, but it was better. It was good enough. But a lot of people look back to lines like 2011's, 2012, that offensive line, 2020, and they want that standard of play from Alabama again. Well, I'm not saying it's not impossible, because it absolutely is, but I think we also have to understand, again, with the transfer portal and NIL, you're not going to have top tier talent sitting around waiting, for their chance to play, developing, getting better, and waiting for their chance to play. That's just not the way it's going to work anymore. So you have to keep that in mind when we're talking about Alabama's offensive line. But I think that they did what they needed to do in the offseason to address some things, especially by bringing in the Texas A&M transfer, Cam Dewberry. And my expectation for the line is realistic, I think. I don't expect them to be what we were in 2012. I think that was a ridiculously talented offensive line. It's going to be hard to replicate that ever. Do I expect this offensive line to be better than it has been in the past 4 years? Yes, 100%. They have to be if Alabama wants to get back on top of the mountain. You've got everything you need. You've got the skill players. You've got the wide receivers. You've got the running backs. You've got the quarterback. You've really got 3 quarterbacks who can do the job, but you know who your starter is going to be. If the offensive line can be mature, handle their business, there's no reason Alabama's not putting up 42 points a game. Absolutely zero reason they're not. They're not. But that all comes back down to the offensive line and their discipline and their maturity. Alabama's line is hosting several upperclassmen, but you're losing some leadership and guys like Ty Booker from last season. So it's questionable. And I get the questions. I understand the questions. I understand the worry and the criticism from fans. I'm getting it on Twitter a lot, especially now that you've got some kind of movement going on in fall camp with Jaden Roberts over at that right guard position, him and Gino Vandermark. But, coach has come out and pretty much said, hey, look, he's been banged up. Now, there's some constants on this line that I think people aren't talking about. Like I said earlier, we're going to bring in Cam Dewberry. And then you look at Caden Proctor, who has gotten better. All right. We want to look at trends, and Proctor has gotten better in his time at Alabama. Parker Brailsford, the center, has been solid. The guy has been good. He's been fantastic, especially for his size. He's been exactly what Alabama needs at that position. And you look on the right side of the line, you've got guys like Jaden Roberts, Wilkin Formby, who are both, I believe, seniors and juniors. So the line now has a ton of upperclassmen leadership on it. And so I do expect it to be better. And they have to set the standard. They have to set the precedent when it comes to things like false starts and not being too far downfield, things like that, and clean up a lot of that stuff that we saw or have seen in the past 4 years. That's typically not what we want from Alabama football. Now, we've had offensive linemen who are prone to false starts and things in the past. It's not like Alabama's offensive line never gets penalized. Leon Brown, you guys remember him? But I think that right there, we start with the offensive line. That's going to clean up a lot of the mess in terms of penalties, things like that. Now, something I've noticed that is looking better under Kane Womack, dare I say this, is cornerbacks getting their heads around and contesting balls when they're in the air. How many times under Nick Saban's tenure did we see a cornerback just run into a wide receiver, take the flag, not even try to get their head turned around? Last season, they looked a lot better under Kane Womack's defense. They still didn't look great, but again, progression is what we're talking about here, trends. Now, overall, as a team, I think the entire mindset will benefit itself to a cleaner, more polished product on the field. And I don't expect Alabama to land in 123 like they did last season in penalty yardage per game, because really what you're hearing out of everybody around the program, and it's not really coach speak, you're hearing this from players, is that everybody's kind of locked in on doing the right thing all the time, being where they're supposed to be, like we said, paying attention to those small details. And that is where you do the hard work when it comes to things like cleaning up penalties. So Kalen DeBoer and this staff in their second year definitely had their work cut out for them going into the season to get that stuff cleaned up. I think personally they can do it. I think just based off of the culture shift that we're hearing about in Tuscaloosa, we can expect a cleaner, more polished football team in 2025. So tell me what you think below. Leave a comment. Tell me to put my hat on the right way instead of backwards like the trolls do. I'm just kidding. You guys, thanks for sticking around. As always, say your prayers, read your Bibles, wash your hands. Horns down, beat Auburn and LSU and Tennessee too. Roll Tide.